My name is Robert, and I'm 34 years old. This happened to me when I was working the night shift at a gas station because I needed the money. And one night, a regular customer showed up who changed everything about how I see people. If you like true scary stories about everyday places turning dangerous, hit like and subscribe, because what this guy did that night still keeps me up. Let me take you back about 6 years. I was working 2 jobs at the time. My day job was fine, but it didn't pay enough. Bills were piling up, my apartment needed repairs, my car needed work. You know how it goes. So I picked up night shifts at a 24-hour gas station near my place. The hours were brutal. 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. 16 hours of work a day if you counted both jobs. But the money helped, and I thought it would be easy. Mostly it was. Sell gas, sell coffee, sell lottery tickets, stock shelves, go home, sleep 4 hours. Repeat. The station wasn't busy at night. Most of the time it was dead. A few cars here and there. Mostly just people passing through on their way to somewhere else. Drivers grabbing coffee or cigarettes, bathroom stops, truckers fueling up before heading back out on the highway. Nothing that required much interaction, which was fine with me. I wasn't looking for conversation. I was looking for a paycheck and 8 hours to pass as quickly as possible. The owner of the station was this older guy named Dennis. He didn't care much about how the place ran as long as the till balanced at the end of the shift. He paid me $9.50 an hour, which wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. The job was simple. Too simple. I'd stand behind the counter and wait for people, ring them up, give them change, answer questions about where the bathrooms were or what kind of coffee we had. Sometimes I'd clean up. Sometimes I'd stock shelves. Sometimes I'd just stand there for 8 hours waiting for nothing in particular to happen. The gas station was in a rough part of town. Not like dangerous in an obvious way. It was just the kind of neighborhood where you could feel the weight of people's problems, where you'd see the same faces coming in at weird hours, where you'd see people making decisions they probably wouldn't make in the daylight, but I was fine with that. I wasn't judging anyone. I was just trying to make enough money to survive. It was my 2nd month working those shifts when he started showing up. I remember the first time he came in. It was around 2 in the morning. 2 a.m. was like the dead zone. That magical time when only the most desperate or the most lost were still awake. He was tall, maybe 6 feet. He had this long, stringy hair that looked like it hadn't been washed in days. It was greasy and matted, and it hung down past his shoulders. He was wearing clothes that had seen better days. A brown jacket with stains on it, jeans with rips in them, work boots that looked ancient. When he walked up to the counter, he had a tall boy beer in his hand, already open, already being drunk. I remember his eyes were kind of glassy, like he'd been drinking for hours before he even got to my store. He had this swagger to him like he owned the place. He walked straight past me toward the cooler without saying anything. I told him he couldn't drink in the store. Company policy. He just smiled at me like I'd said something funny. He reached into the cooler and grabbed another tall boy. One of the big cans. He came back to the counter with it. I rang it up. He paid with crumpled bills that he pulled from his pocket. Some of them fell on the counter and I had to pick them up. He cracked that beer open right there in front of me and took a long drink. Some of it dripped down his chin. He didn't wipe it away. He just let it dry on his skin. Then he looked at me and asked my name. His eyes were trying to focus on my face. I told him, "Robert, just that. Nothing more." He started laughing. This weird laugh that sounded almost like wheezing. He kept saying it over and over. "Robert, Robert, Robert." Like he'd heard the funniest thing in the world, like the very concept of my name existing was hilarious to him. He was looking at me like he was waiting for me to get the joke. But there was no joke, at least not one that I could understand. Then he walked out of the store drinking that beer like he owned the place. He didn't even acknowledge me as he left. He just walked toward the door and disappeared into the darkness outside. I remember thinking that was weird, but not dangerous. Just a drunk guy. We got plenty of those. I'd seen them come in all the time. People at their lowest. People who'd made bad choices or had bad choices made for them. He'd probably never come back. I was wrong. So wrong. He came back the next night. Around the same time, 2 in the morning, like clockwork. He bought the same thing. A tall boy. Opened it right there in front of me. Drank it. Looked at me like we shared some secret. Then left. I remember thinking this was strange. Why would someone come to the same gas station at the same time every single night, just to buy a beer and leave? Where was he going? Where was he coming from? This became a pattern. Every single night for about 2 weeks he showed up around 2 a.m., always buying alcohol, always seeming like he'd already had way too much before he got there. The smell that came off him was like decay, like someone who hadn't showered in days, like someone whose insides were rotting from the alcohol consumption. He was polite, though. He never caused trouble. He'd come in, buy his beer, make some small talk, leave. No confrontation, no aggression, just this strange routine. I started to notice things, though. Like he never bought gas. Not once in all those visits. He'd walk past the counter and go straight to the cooler, get his beer, come back, pay, leave. He never asked for the bathroom, never bought anything else, never seemed interested in the store beyond getting his alcohol. That meant he was probably drinking and driving, which wasn't really my problem technically. But it made me uneasy. I kept thinking about the other people on the road, about the families driving late at night, about how this guy was out there behind the wheel after consuming multiple beers. The nights he came in, he'd be in different states of drunkenness. Some nights he'd barely be able to stand. He'd lean heavily on the counter while I was ringing him up. His words would be slurred. His eyes would be half closed. Other nights he'd seem almost coherent, like maybe he'd slow down his drinking earlier in the evening, like maybe he was trying to hold it together. But there was always something off about him, something in his eyes that didn't match the friendly way he was talking. It was like 2 different people were using the same face. One who was trying to be normal, and one who was deeply troubled by something he couldn't talk about. One night he came in and just leaned against one of the shelves in the store. He wasn't even looking at anything, just staring at the wall like it held all the answers to whatever questions were eating at him. His beer was in his hand. He was just standing there, not moving, not saying a word, just existing in this space and staring at nothing. I was checking inventory in the back, and when I came out front, I saw him like that. It was eerie, like he was frozen in place. I asked him if he was okay. He turned to look at me slowly, like it took his brain a few seconds to register that I'd spoken. Like someone had hit the play button on a VCR that had been paused. His eyes focused on me, and there was something almost sad in them. Then he asked my name again, like he'd never heard it before, like we were meeting for the first time. I told him it was Robert. He said no. He said his name was Bob, which I thought was weird. I'd already told him my name multiple times over the past 2 weeks, and he knew it. He'd heard it. But he was saying his was Bob, like we were just meeting for the first time, like all those previous interactions had been erased from his memory, or like he was playing some kind of game with me that only he understood the rules to. I asked him where he worked. He laughed. This loud laugh that actually startled me because it was so sudden and so strange. It echoed through the quiet store. He said he didn't work. He said the government completely screwed him out of his job. The way he said it was angry, bitter, like he was talking about the biggest injustice that had ever happened to him, like the entire government had personally conspired against him to make sure he never worked again. But then his expression changed. It shifted. It softened a little bit. He looked at me and he said, "I like you, Rob. You seem like you know what you're doing." His voice was different when he said that. It was almost gentle, like he was complimenting me. But there was also something possessive about it. Something that felt more like an observation than a compliment. Like he was studying me, figuring me out. I didn't know what he meant by that. I didn't know what me knowing what I was doing had to do with anything, or why it mattered to him. But before I could ask, he just walked out. He left his beer on one of the shelves. Left it there like he didn't care about it anymore. And he just walked out into the night without another word. I didn't see him for about a week after that, which was a relief, honestly. I figured maybe he'd moved on, found a different gas station, found a different routine. Or maybe he'd gotten arrested or something. Or maybe he drank himself into the hospital. I didn't really care. I was just glad he wasn't showing up every night to make me uncomfortable. Glad I didn't have to see those wild eyes and smell that awful smell coming off him. Then one night it was storming. This was a bad storm, a real bad one. The kind where you hear on the news about accidents and downed power lines and people dying on the highways. Heavy rain, wind that was actually shaking the building. I could hear it howling outside, could hear it rattling the glass doors. There were barely any customers. Most people weren't going anywhere in that kind of weather. They were home, safe, dry. I was just standing behind the counter trying to pass the time, reading magazines, checking my phone, killing time on social media, waiting for the shift to end so I could go home and sleep for 4 hours before I had to be at my day job. The store was almost empty. I'd probably ring up maybe 2 or 3 people the entire night if I was lucky. Then the door chimed. Someone came in. Water was dripping onto the floor from them. It was raining hard enough that even the short walk from a car to the building left someone soaked. And before I even looked, I had this weird feeling that it was him. I don't know why, but I just knew. My body knew. My instincts knew. Some part of my brain that picked up on subtle patterns recognized something. And when I looked up, I was right. It was him. It was Bob. But this was a different Bob than I'd seen before. This was a Bob that was fundamentally changed. He was completely soaked through. His clothes were wet. His hair was dripping water onto the floor. He wasn't wearing a jacket. Not even a rain jacket. Just a dark shirt and jeans. Everything was clinging to his body because he was so wet. He looked like he'd been standing out in that rain for a long time. like he'd been driving around for hours in the storm, not going anywhere particular. He walked in and just stood there by the door, not moving, not saying anything, just staring straight ahead at the wall. His jaw was clenched tight. His hands were balled into fists at his sides. He looked angry, but at the same time his mind seemed to be somewhere else entirely, like his thoughts were running in a loop that had nothing to do with being in this gas station, like he was replaying something over and over in his head, something bad. I said, "Bob, are you okay?" It was a stupid question. Clearly, something was very wrong. But it's what you say in situations like that. You say the polite thing. You ask the safe question. He didn't turn his head. He didn't move at all. He just stood there, dripping water onto my floor and staring at that wall. Then he spoke. His voice was different than before. It was lower, much lower. It was serious. It was scared. He said I did something really bad. His words were slurred, but not from alcohol. They were slurred from fear, from whatever was happening in his mind. I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I asked him what he'd done. I don't know why I asked. Maybe I wanted him to deny it. Maybe I wanted him to laugh and say he was joking. Maybe I wanted this to be something simple that could be easily explained. He turned to look at me slowly. His eyes were different. They were unfocused, dilated. He said I need somewhere to hide. His voice cracked when he said it, like he was about to cry. Then he walked past me toward the back of the store where the bathrooms are. He walked like someone in a trance, like his body was moving, but his mind wasn't in control of it. He disappeared around the corner. I heard a bathroom door open and then close, and then nothing. Just the sound of the rain against the building and the hum of the fluorescent lights. I stood behind the counter, processing what had just happened. This guy had just told me he'd done something really bad and that he needed somewhere to hide. Those words kept repeating in my head. What did he do? What was so bad that he was soaking wet from being outside in a storm and needed to hide in a gas station bathroom? Did he hurt someone? Did he do something illegal? My mind was racing through possibilities. I waited maybe 5 minutes, then 10 minutes. He didn't come back out. I figured he was probably passed out, or sick, throwing up. Either way, I didn't want to deal with it. I wasn't going to go back there and check on him. I was just going to leave him back there, and if he was still there when my shift ended, I'd call the manager. Let her deal with it. Let her figure out what to do with some drunk guy hiding in the bathroom. And then the lights went out. All of them. The entire store went dark. The power died. I don't know if it was the storm or an electrical issue or a downed power line somewhere. But suddenly I was standing in complete darkness in a gas station with a strange man somewhere in the back of the building. For a few seconds I just stood there, trying to let my eyes adjust to the darkness. But it was complete darkness. The kind of darkness where you literally cannot see your hand in front of your face. The kind of darkness that makes your other senses start compensating. I could hear the rain louder now. I could hear the wind. I could smell the damp coming from that man's wet clothes that were probably still in the back. I grabbed the flashlight from behind the counter. I knew where it was because I'd used it before when we had power issues. I'd been a night shift worker long enough to know where emergency supplies were. I turned it on and the beam cut through the darkness like a knife. It was almost blinding after being in that complete black. I blinked a few times and my eyes adjusted. I needed to get to the back. I needed to check the electrical panel. Maybe I could flip a breaker and get the lights back on. Or maybe I'd just see what the situation was back there. Maybe the storm had knocked something out and it would reset automatically. I didn't want to walk back there. Not at all. But I was the only employee in the store. I was the only one who could do anything about it. I walked toward the back of the store. The flashlight beam was bouncing as I walked. My heart was starting to beat faster. I could feel it in my chest, pounding, loud. I don't know why exactly I was scared. Just that weird feeling you get when something isn't right. When your body is picking up on signals that something dangerous is happening. When every instinct you have is screaming at you to turn around and leave. I got to the hallway where the bathrooms are. Both doors were closed. No, wait. Both doors were open, just slightly. Both of them ajar, like someone had opened them and left them that way. I shined the flashlight into the first one. The beam caught the toilet, the sink, the mirror, empty. Nobody was in there. I shined it into the second one, empty. Bob wasn't in either bathroom. My stomach tightened. If he wasn't in the bathrooms, then where was he? I went through the door to the back room where the inventory is stored, and where the electrical panel is on the wall. I was planning on going straight to the panel to see if I could get the lights back on. But I stopped because I heard something. A slight dripping sound, water dripping onto the floor, and the squeaking of wet shoes on the concrete. My stomach dropped. Bob was back here, somewhere in this room with me in the darkness, somewhere hiding, somewhere waiting. I said his name, Bob. I said it quietly because I was scared. I said it almost like a question, like I was asking him to appear, to make himself known. I heard the squeaking of those wet shoes again, to my left, close, really close, too close. I pointed the flashlight to my left, and there he was, in the corner of the room, just standing there, motionless. His eyes were open really wide, wide and wild, like he wasn't entirely present in his own body, like something else was looking out through his eyes, like the person I'd talked to all those nights was gone and something else was using his face. He lunged at me. His entire body just exploded toward me. He was screaming. He was screaming that he was going to kill me. His voice was hoarse and raw, like he'd been screaming for hours. His hands came at me. His fingernails were clawing at my back. I felt them rake across my skin through my shirt, sharp, painful, real. I pushed him off. I was strong enough to do that. I used everything I had and I pushed him away. He stumbled backward and I ran. I ran back through that door and out into the front of the store. My flashlight was still in my hand and it was bouncing wildly as I ran. I could hear him behind me, his wet shoes on the floor, his breathing, ragged, angry. I grabbed my rain jacket from under the counter and I ran out the door into the storm. The rain hit me immediately. It was cold. It was shocking. But I didn't care. I just kept running toward my car. I could hear him screaming behind me, his voice mixing with the sound of the wind and the rain. I got to my car and I locked myself inside. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. My back was burning where he'd clawed me. I could feel blood. Warm blood. But I didn't care about that. I just needed to call for help. I dialed 911. The operator answered and I told her what happened. I told her there was a man at the gas station who attacked me, who threatened to kill me. She told me to stay in my car and that police were coming. It felt like I waited forever, but it probably wasn't more than 5 minutes. 2 police cars pulled up with lights flashing, their red and blue lights mixed with the rain and made everything look surreal. Officers got out with their flashlights. They were moving carefully, alert. They didn't know what they were walking into. I unlocked my car door and one of the officers came over to check on me. I told him what happened. I told him about Bob coming in soaking wet, about him saying he did something really bad, about the lights going out, about him attacking me in the back room. The officer asked me to stay in my car while they secured the building. I watched as they went inside with their weapons drawn. I could see the beams of their flashlights moving through the dark store. After maybe 10 minutes, they came back out. They had Bob with them. He was handcuffed. His arms were behind his back. He looked like some kind of wild animal. His pupils were huge, dilated, like he was on something more than just alcohol. He was struggling against the officers as they put him in the patrol car. He was still screaming, still fighting. The officers had to use force to get him inside. I watched as one of them had to practically shove him into the back seat. One of the other officers came over to my car and took my full statement. I told him everything. The routine visits, the beers, the strange comments, the way he'd come in soaking wet that night, the words he'd said, everything. The officer was taking notes. His face was serious. When I got to the part about him attacking me, the officer leaned back and let out a breath. He said I'd done the right thing calling it in. He said it was lucky I didn't get more seriously hurt. He said my response was exactly what I should have done. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. He said they'd found out that the man's real name wasn't Bob. It was Martin. And Martin had just called his ex-wife that evening. Repeated calls, over and over. When she didn't answer, he'd started drinking and driving around in the storm. The officer said there was evidence at Martin's apartment that he'd been planning to do something bad. He didn't give me details, but the way he said it made me understand that Martin had been planning to hurt someone that night. Maybe seriously hurt them, maybe worse. And I'd interrupted whatever that plan was by being there. By the grace of timing and chance, I'd been exactly where he needed to be to prevent something worse from happening. I found out over the next month what Martin had actually done. Through news reports and police updates, his ex-wife had filed a protective order against him. She'd been terrified of him. She'd documented threats. She'd kept a record of his harassment. That night when he came to the gas station, he'd actually driven by her house first. He'd sat outside, watching, and something had stopped him. Maybe he lost his nerve. Maybe he remembered that he needed to hide. Maybe something in what was left of his mind told him he couldn't do what he was planning. But what I do know is that Martin had violently beaten his ex-wife to death. The date was uncertain, but it was either that night or the night before. The police told me that much. They said the injuries were consistent with sustained violence, with rage, with a person who wanted to hurt someone very badly. They didn't give me all the details, and I didn't want all the details, but I knew that his ex-wife was gone, and Martin was in custody, and I had scratches on my back from where he'd clawed me that took weeks to heal. I quit that job the day after it happened. I just didn't go back. I called the manager and I told her I was done. She asked why. I told her I'd been attacked. She seemed surprised but not shocked. Like maybe she knew something about the situation that she hadn't told me. Like maybe this wasn't the first time someone had gotten violent at that station. Either way, I was done. I couldn't go back there. I couldn't work another night shift. Not at that station. Not anywhere. The thought of being alone at night working at a retail location became unbearable. Even now, years later, the thought of working a night shift makes my skin crawl. Makes me feel that feeling I had when Bob was hiding in that back room. That feeling of being trapped, of being alone, of not knowing what was going to happen next. I still have nightmares about that night. I'll wake up and for a second I think I'm back in that store, in the darkness. I can feel his fingernails on my back. I can hear him screaming. I can smell him. That awful smell of alcohol and decay and desperation. My girlfriend has learned not to ask me about it. She knows it bothers me. She knows that some things you experience never really leave you. About the scars on my back. I told people I got into a fight. I didn't tell them the whole story. Some people know. My close friends. They know that I was attacked. They know that a man came into the gas station where I worked, and something went very wrong. But most people don't know. Most people just see a guy who quit his second job and went back to just working one job. They don't know that I can't be alone in retail locations at night. They don't know that I can't hear certain sounds without my heart rate increasing. They don't know that part of me is still in that gas station. About Martin. I don't know where he is now. Prison, probably. I don't really want to know. I don't follow the case. I don't want updates. I just want to pretend it never happened. But I know it did. I know because I can still feel the scratches on my back sometimes. I know because I still have nightmares. I know because I changed that night. I became a different person. What I do know is that I'm hyper-aware now of people. I notice the small things, the way someone's eyes don't quite match their smile, the way someone asks personal questions but doesn't listen to the answers, the way someone's hands are clenched when the rest of their face is trying to be friendly. These are the things that don't add up. These are the things that mean something is wrong. I learned that night that the people who are most dangerous aren't always the obvious ones. They're not the ones who look scary. They're not the ones who are aggressive immediately. Martin was drunk and sad and lost, but he was also capable of extreme violence, and I had no way of knowing until it was too late. No warning signs that were clear enough. No moment where I could have said this is definitely dangerous and removed myself. I was lucky that the power went out. I was lucky that I heard him. I was lucky that I had the strength to push him off and run. I was lucky that the police came when they did. I was lucky on every single level. And luck doesn't always show up twice. If you're working at night, if you're alone, if something feels wrong, trust that feeling. Pay attention to the pattern. Pay attention to the small details. Don't dismiss people just because they seem harmless. Don't be polite at the cost of your safety. The most dangerous people are often the ones who seem the least dangerous, and if your gut is screaming at you to get away, then get away. Don't worry about being rude. Don't worry about offending someone. Just trust that feeling and remove yourself from the situation, because I was lucky, and luck doesn't always show up.